Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Seahawks scored a road win over the Cardinals in the desert. Also, Penn State is seeking its first big-time win under James Franklin as the Oregon Ducks come to town. And Zion is back in shape, but we're not impressed.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Sam Darnold led the Seahawks past the Cardinals on Thursday night. Locked On Seahawks host Corbin Smith broke down the action on Locked On Seahawks postcast.
The Seahawks had a convincing lead for a good chunk of this game on Thursday night, but the Arizona Cardinals, they decided to make things kind of interesting. Towards the end, were able to knot the game up at 20 points apiece after they were trailing by 14. Not that much earlier in the game. The Seahawks were up 20-6, and the Cardinals come storming back with 2 touchdown drives. Fortunately for Seahawks fans, you get to go into a mini bye with a 3-1 record thanks to Jason Myers and Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith and Jigba and company. And you can also give Chad Ryland some credit as well from the Cardinals. And I'll get to more of that here in a second. But this 23-20 victory over the Arizona Cardinals propels the Seahawks into at least a tie for second place in the NFC West, depending on what happens this weekend with the 49ers and the Rams in their respective games. The 49ers win. Obviously, the Seahawks are still in second place. But this puts them at 3-1. They're now 1-1 in the NFC West. The Cardinals dropping to 0-2. And again, this is a game that it felt like should have probably been a little easier for the Seahawks to pull off than getting a game-winning field goal, but that's not how it played out. When you look at the stats, the passing yards, it was a big discrepancy. Rushing yards, the Seahawks had more. The Seahawks had the ball for almost 5 full minutes longer than what the Cardinals did. They also created more turnovers, and what's ironic about this is the one turnover the Seahawks had came off of a turnover. Kobe Bryant intercepting Kyler Murray in the first quarter and then gets hit by his own teammate as he's going to the ground. Tyrese Knight knocks the ball out of his hands. Looked like he was trying to give himself up, but he had not hit the ground yet and did not get touched by a Cardinals player at that point, so they did not overturn the play. So the one turnover that the Seahawks did have in this game, it came after they had created a turnover themselves. So really you could say that this was a 3-turnover game because Tyrese Knight got a fumble on that play with Kobe Bryant. But it felt like it was a game that the Seahawks were in command throughout, even when the Cardinals came back and tied the game. And kudos to Arizona. They did not give up. They had 2 excellent drives in the fourth quarter. The defense made some mistakes that allowed drives to be extended, and Arizona capitalized on it. And Seattle's offense didn't finish drives enough in this game to really put it away. And I think that's the big storyline here. If the Seahawks would have lost this game, then you'd be bemoaning the fact that Kobe Bryant, as I mentioned, interception that he had the ball knocked out of his hands. He was going to the ground by his own teammate. Seahawks don't get any points. In fact, they give up 3 on the next drive. The Cardinals get the field goal to go up 3-0. You have a net -3 in the point differential off turnovers because that directly led to the Cardinals getting that field goal. And then Ernest Jones has interception that was bobbled off Marvin Harrison Jr.'s hands in the second quarter, and he returns it past midfield. Prime opportunity to go get points. And they had 3rd and 3 at the end of a Ken Walker run, and Walker gets penalized for taunting. And so it becomes 3rd and 18. They lose 4 on a screen. The next play, they're knocked out of field goal range. They have to punt. So neither one of those turnovers turned into any points for the Seahawks. In fact, like I said, it directly went to 3 points for the Cardinals after they fumbled the interception that they had from Kobe Bryant. And so they did not capitalize on those opportunities. Julian Love had a gimme interception at the end of the first half that bounced off his chest that he didn't reel in that would have put the Seahawks immediately in field goal range to add points before half. So they had chances in that first half to blow the game open. In the second half, they had a missed field goal. They had a conservative fourth quarter drive. The end of the drive was conservative where they ran the ball 3 straight plays. They were in 4-minute offense. They did move the chains, and then Myers misses a 52-yard field goal or 56-yard field goal. The Seahawks did not help themselves at all in terms of those miscues. They didn't capitalize on what the Cardinals did wrong, and those points ended up almost coming back to cost them. But the end of the day, the real storyline coming out of this game, because the Seahawks found a way to win it, even with those 2 touchdowns the Cardinals scored, the fact the defense had been so dominant all day suddenly was struggling to stop Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison and company. There was still no doubt on the sideline the Seahawks were going to win this game. And I think a lot of that goes back to Mike McDonald and his mentality, but also the quarterback, Sam Darnold. It doesn't matter if they're up 20. It doesn't matter if they're down 20. It doesn't matter if they're in the middle of a tied game with 28 seconds left on the clock, like they had in this game. He is always going to be ready to go out of the field with the same even-keeled demeanor. And he doesn't get high, he doesn't get low. He is always in the same spot. And his teammates are following his lead on that front. They always feel like they're going to win the game no matter what happens down the line. They feel like Sam Darnold is going to put them in a position to win the game. And that's ultimately what happened. And I think when you look at that final 28 seconds, Arizona, talk about miscues. Chad Ryland, the new kickoff rules, the ball has to land. It has to hit the ground inside the 20-yard line. It has to hit what's called the landing zone, and his kick came up short. It hit short of that landing zone, which is a penalty. It automatically puts the ball at the 40-yard line. So Seattle, they only really had to drive 25 yards to get into Jason Myers' wheelhouse for a field goal. And they had 28 seconds. No time went off the clock with that penalty. So they had one timeout. They had 28 seconds. That was a critical mistake on special teams. The Seahawks have really benefited from these new kickoff rules and other teams botching those rules the last 3 weeks.
Stay up to date all year on the Seattle Seahawks by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Seahawks on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, Oregon and Penn State face off in what could be the game of the year in college football. Before we get to that, the Lakers are extending J.J. Redick. Yes, already. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits. However, I like to bet in the moment. Player props, same game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. The Lakers are still in win-now mode with LeBron and Luka, and now they've extended head coach J.J. Redick.
If Mark Walter is looking at this roster and saying, why are we looking ahead to a couple years from now when we have Luka and LeBron and Austin Reeves and a roster that at the very least, the top end of it is pretty talented. They won 50 games last year. You're going to have a full training camp with J.J. Redick, everybody coming in seemingly healthy, knock on wood, for another week or so. Why would you look ahead towards a couple seasons at the expense of the right now? And if Mark Walter is making that clear, Rob is GMing for his future job. And maybe there's been a shift because the new ultimate shot caller is making it clear, no.
Over on the diamond, the Mets took Game 3 against the Cubs to keep their lead over the Reds in the wild card race.
The roller coaster ride for the New York Mets continued tonight. Nolan McLean, clearly the team's best pitcher, got the start. And while the final line will tell one story, he was dominant early on in this game when the Mets needed him to be. 11 strikeouts. Just showing off that spin with the slider, spin with the curveball, spin with the sweeper. Just a guy who has the confidence to throw any pitch in any spot, and you saw that in this game tonight. Francisco Lindor, for the second time in his career, joined the 30-30 club. He hit his 30th home run of the season. Brett Beatty, homer off of a lefty, and for right now, the Mets still holding on to that third and final wild card spot in the National League. And it all comes down to one series. Miami, a constant thorn in the Mets side since I've been on this earth, 31 years. The Mets, a one-game lead, 3 games to play in Miami. Can they get it done?
Meanwhile, the Reds shut down the Pirates.
Well, one play doesn't make you a right fielder. Or does it?
Can you believe it? Noel V. Marte makes the play of the 2025 Cincinnati Reds season, Jeff.
that saved the season. Period. Plain and simple. And I know Emilio Pagan's don't get to save, but Noelvi Marte deserves the save. He had an RBI in this game. The Reds scored twice. He was the reason for at least one of those runs. He was also the reason that the Pirates didn't get another one.
Yeah, unbelievable catch. Feet away from us, mere feet.
And we're done with home games for the regular season, but are we? We're done with the regular season.
Are we back in?
I think we're back.
All right.
I think we're back in.
We're back in.
The Mets are going to lose tonight. We're going to say it.
Dodgers are up big right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do it. We're back. 3 more games the rest of the year.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
And the 76ers just can't catch a break with injuries. Guard Jared McCain tore a ligament in his right thumb during a workout. And while doctors are still deciding on the treatment plan, his status for the start of the NBA season is now in doubt. It's a tough break for the second-year guard who is expected to play a major role alongside Tyrese Maxey after injuries cut short his rookie season. The year hasn't even tipped off, and the Sixers are already in injury management mode with Joel Embiid and Paul George sidelined as well. Penn State welcomes Oregon to town in what might be the game of the year in college football. Locked On Big 12 host Drake Toll sat down with Jesse Holley and Coach Gary Patterson on Fire TV's college football kickoff show to preview the Big Ten clash in Happy Valley.
Spencer, we will start with you. It was terrible what you did to those toys in those 4 movies now, I think. Question number 2. For the Oregon Ducks this week going on the road to Penn State from the West Coast to the East Coast. We talk a lot about how that travel can get into the psyche of a college football team. Can the Ducks shake the travel woes? Let's start there.
I think they can. You know, Oregon in this spot is going to be asked to prove a lot because we don't really know. This is the first test of the year for Penn State, but I've seen most of this Penn State roster get to a national semifinal and be within a drive of the national championship game last year. I haven't seen this version of the Oregon players do that. So I think for this Ducks team, it's a great test because they've looked really impressive through their first 4 games. I actually think it's better they play on the whiteout rather than big noon. I think going that far across the country and playing at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is the body clock for these Oregon guys, would be a lot tougher. You saw him be slow out of the gates against Northwestern when they kicked off at 9 o'clock, but certainly the whiteout is the greatest environment in college football and will be a real challenge because it'll be the first time that Oregon will have potentially serious communication problems this year. So it's a big test for Dante Moore, big test for this young Oregon team, but if they play the way they're capable, they will come out on top on Saturday.
Zach Seiko, Locked On Nittany Lions. People are still asking if James Franklin can win the big one. In my opinion, he's won a lot of big ones to this point. Is there a worry he can't get over some sort of fictitious hump in a big game like this?
Well, and that's just it. He's won the games that Penn State is supposed to. They're better than Boise State. They're better than SMU. But when it gets into that territory, hey, it's a toss-up. You're a slight underdog. So I guess Penn State has it going for them when they're a 3.5-point favorite in this game. It's at home. All of the factors line up because you couldn't have a better situation if you're Penn State. You get 2 weeks to prepare for the Oregon Ducks. You get the non-conference schedule. There's that debate, battle tested, rest versus rust. In this situation early in the season, I'm going to side with the rest. You get 2 full weeks to prepare for the Oregon Ducks. All the focus has been there. It's the whiteout. You actually catch Oregon, I think, in a spot where this isn't the best version of the Oregon Ducks. Okay, I think Dante Moore, DeCorian Moore, that core of young talent on offense and defense is only going to get better. So if I'm Penn State, I would rather play them now at home with a bye week, with a non-conference schedule that really didn't push any limits. You couldn't ask for a better setup if you're the Nittany Lions.
Spencer, Zach just spit in your face virtually. It seems as though saying the Oregon Ducks maybe will be better in a few weeks. Give me a quick synopsis, final score of this game.
I think that Seiko is actually fair to point out that Oregon might be better later in the season. What I'd encourage him to do is go back and watch the first few games of the year in which the biggest struggle Oregon has had so far is a 34-0 lead against Northwestern, and then the starters got pulled. That's been the closest game Oregon has played so far. Maybe that's to their detriment. Maybe Penn State was playing three-dimensional chess by keeping it close with FIU into the fourth quarter at home because they're going to be battle-tested in a close game in that spot. there are a lot of factors working in the Nittany Lions' favor in this game, and a lot that are working against Oregon as well. You talk about experience, you talk about the coordinator matchups. You know, you've got Jim Knowles on the other side, who really took it to Will Stein and the Oregon offense when he was with Ohio State in the Rose Bowl game. On the road, long trip, Penn State off a bye. I think Oregon can absolutely go out and win this game. They need to do a lot of things really well, and I've been a believer in Penn State all offseason, so I've got the Nittany Lions winning actually 34-29 over the Ducks.
Zach, he's going to go with the team that you cover. I told him to keep it brief. He failed to do so. Can you try your hand at keeping it brief and giving me a final score?
I'm glad that he brought up the Jim Knowles factor, the whiteout environment. It is as vaunted as it is for a reason. I will go 31-27. I think these teams will be able to move the football. I mean, it's an electric offense versus a team that's still trying to find a little more identity on offense. But Penn State's ground game will be the difference alongside having Jim Knowles versus Tom Allen, because that's why Oregon won this first time around in that Big Ten championship.
Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Zach. Best of luck this week to the players on the field.
Statute of limitations has run out on my crimes against those toys.
You can stay up to date all year on college football by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On College Football on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Coming up, Zion has put in some work this offseason, but does it actually mean, anything? Zion Williamson has had an impressive transformation this offseason. He's slimmed down and looks ready to prove he's more than an injury-prone afterthought in the NBA. But does his weight loss actually impact the Pelicans? Locked On NBA hosts John Corrales and Jake Madison aren't impressed.
All right, real fake, John. You're hyped up for Zion Williamson going into year 7.
You know what? Fake. I'm going to say fake, because I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. Like you got to show.
We've been here before. We've been here before, right?
I've seen in shape Zion. And even if he comes out and has this awesome November, I'll be like, all right, let's see what, you get past Thanksgiving and just, Christmas and, all the food that's out there and all the mistakes that he can make again in his, basketball career. Then if we can get past that and he's still in shape and he's doing all the things that he's supposed to be doing, okay, then I'll get hyped. But at this point, I'm like, Zion, he has to prove it. At this point, I'm not buying it until he get me to the All-Star break with in shape Zion.
I am less impressed than ever with athlete weight loss because tirzepatide exists. All of these GLP-1 drugs, you can just take a shot. You don't even have to work that hard and you can lose the weight. But I'm also not impressed by an athlete getting in shape. That's the job. Hello. That is what you get paid to do. Luka Doncic being in shape. Oh, wow. Oh, my God. That's what he was always supposed to do. The fact that it took this long is just proof that I have no reason to have any faith this is going to last. This is not a rookie. This is not a second-year player. In the case of Luka and Zion, these guys have been in the league a long time now. I know it doesn't seem like it, but they have. I don't know why I would expect any of these changes to be permanent. And especially in the case of Zion Williamson, I'm much more concerned with his body breaking down than anything else. Okay, cool. He's lost weight. Maybe that's less force on his limbs and muscles and ligaments, but maybe it's not. And maybe this is just who he is at this point in his career. That would be a bummer, but that seems like the most likely outcome. And finally, Dak Prescott won't make this week about him and his old friend Micah Parsons, but it's hard not to. The Packers traded for Parsons in August, and he's now set to face the Cowboys for the first time. Prescott admitted he and his fiance have even laughed about all those practice reps where Parsons couldn't hit him, and now the chance is finally here. Parsons can. Dallas will be without CeeDee Lamb and 2 starting offensive linemen, which means Prescott could see plenty of his former teammate coming off the edge or up the middle or wherever the Packers decide to put him. Officially, this is Cowboys versus Packers, not Dak versus Micah, but you can bet all eyes will be on that reunion in the pocket. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, either the Ravens or the Chiefs will start the season 1-3 after they face off this weekend. So who gets the dub? At least until tomorrow. Stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.